Welcome.
Thanks very much.
Talking about auditory processing disorder.
One of my favourite things to talk about.
Can you give us a very simple definition?
Auditory processing in itself refers to what we do with what we hear. So it is separate from actual just hearing. We can refer to hearing as hearing acuity. What's the very softest sound that I can hear across a range of frequencies? When you go to an audiologist and have your hearing tested, they're testing your hearing acuity.
So are we talking also about loudness?
Absolutely.
Not just frequencies low and high, but exactly how
That's
loud
exactly
they are.
right. And what is the softest sound we can hear is our hearing acuity.
Right.
Whereas auditory processing is then what does the brain do with what it hears, particularly in relation to distinguishing speech.
So you've defined what auditory processing actually is, but we're talking about auditory processing disorder. So what goes wrong?
So auditory processing disorder in its simplest form is when something is wrong with what we do with what we hear. So it could be that we have difficulty perceiving speech when there's background noise, or we'd have difficulty locating where a sound is coming from, or we have difficulty distinguishing between similar sounding speech sounds. So auditory processing disorder covers a variety of different symptoms, if you like.
So the acuity can actually still be okay?
The acuity can be absolutely fine. And in fact, we only describe auditory processing disorder when we know that the person has perfect hearing, because otherwise we're looking at a hearing loss, and you can still have similar symptoms, but they would not be classified as an auditory processing disorder, but those symptoms would relate to having a hearing loss.
Is it a common problem?
I think it's more common than acknowledged, particularly in schools, because it's a relatively new disorder that's been described over the last 20 years. One of the problems is that even amongst the academics, there's no common agreement regarding exactly what is auditory processing disorder.
So a little bit of a mystery then. Is there any particular research coming out at the moment which is helping us with that understanding?
There's a great deal of research into this disorder, and I think that is helping to clarify what we actually mean by auditory processing disorder. But it's, as a field, it's really still in its infancy compared to things like dyslexia and ADHD, which have been well described for, 50, 60, 70 years, whereas auditory processing disorder has really only come on our radar in the form that we're developing in the last 20 years.